So I was in the kitchen a few weeks ago and I was talking to my mum, and somehow the topic of like degrees came up. I think we were talking about my master's degree, and then I think she asked what's the difference between an MA and an MSc, so like a Master of Arts and a Master of Science. And I thought of you guys. I was like, you know what, maybe that would actually be a great video idea. Like, what is the actual difference between an MA and an MSc? What's the difference between a BA and a BSc? Because I think sometimes we go through life, we don't even think about it. I certainly didn't know, and I certainly didn't care. I just knew that there were like different types of degrees, but I didn't know the actual difference. So, of course, I did a bit of research so that I could simplify it for you guys and hopefully you walk away with a bit more knowledge than before. So, to go in chronological order, let's start with the undergraduate degrees. So you've got the Bachelor of Arts and the Bachelor of Science, or BA and BSc for short. So let's start with the definitions. Of course, a Bachelor of Arts degree, or BA for short, is defined as an undergraduate degree that's usually 3 to 4 years long, and it teaches subjects such as liberal arts, humanities, social sciences, and other fields. Like, that's the definition I found, and I feel like saying and other fields is a bit vague. Like, what do you mean other fields? People could think anything. So I did a bit more digging so that we could get more specific and a bit of a clearer understanding. So the common subjects that you'll find Bachelor of Arts degrees to be would typically be sociology, psychology, philosophy, art, history, and English. So those are the kind of Bachelor of Arts degrees that you'll find. So these kinds of subjects tend to focus on your creative thinking and also improving your theoretical skills and critical thinking skills. And of course, having a degree in this area can lead to careers in fields of art, media, teaching, and even social work. So that summarizes what Bachelor of Arts degree is and what kind of subjects you tend to find under the BA category. So next we have the Bachelor of Science, or BSc for short. So this is more focused on technical and scientific subjects. So the kinds of degrees that you'll find being taught as a Bachelor of Science is stuff like maths, engineering, information technology, computer science, chemistry, physics, and biology. So a lot of these degrees tend to involve a lot of lab work, data analysis, numbers, problem solving skills, and a lot of research. So this can lead to careers in things like technology, research, healthcare, and engineering. So those are the main differences between the two. One of the other things that makes these different is the fact that a BSc usually has more credits than a BA. So by the time you graduate and you see how many credits you need to have, a BSc typically will tend to have or require more credits than a BA. And BAs are more offered around the world in comparison to BScs. So BAs tend to be more creative and theoretical, whereas BScs tend to be more scientific and data driven. So I myself did a psychology undergraduate degree, which at the time I didn't really know or care whether it was a BA or a BSc, but I did see my graduation certificate recently and it is a BA, it's a Bachelor of Arts. So that concludes the undergraduates, but quickly before we move on to the masters, I just want to go through some of the pros and cons of doing a BA versus doing a BSc. So for the Bachelor of Arts, a big pro is that it allows you a lot of flexibility and creativity, because that's what it's more focused on. It really tries to help you improve on your communication and critical thinking skills. And this is obviously very helpful in a lot of careers, if not all careers in the world. So you can't go wrong with that kind of skill set. It's very transferable. But a con for BAs is that depending on the field that you're trying to get into, some employers might want a BSc, might want you to have a bit more technical and quantitative skills that allow you to be able to do more research or a job that's more data driven, which you can get when you do a BSc degree because of all the lab work and research that you'll be doing in that degree. Which leads me nicely onto one of the pros for the BSc, which is that it is very hands-on, it's very technical, and it can lead you straight into the career of science, healthcare, and tech-based careers, which are usually in high demand. Like, people are always needed in these fields. And a con, however, is that it is very rigid. It tends to be, very number focused. If it's kind of heavy on the maths, the research, the lab work. So if you're somebody who prefers creativity over being very calculated, this might not be the right fit for you. So of course, both options are good, and it's still good to get an education either way. But research what aligns with what you want to do and the kind of person you want to be, so that you can thrive in whatever field you choose to go into, or whatever degree you choose to get. So now talking about the master's degrees, just like the BA and the BSc, you got a Master of Arts and then you got Master of Science. So what is the difference between these two? Of course, it's going to be quite similar to what I've mentioned with the undergraduate degrees, but let's talk about it. So an MA is described as usually awarded in fields like arts, humanities, social sciences, philosophy, English, history, counseling, or education. And so once again, it focuses more on theory, critical analysis, and developing a deeper understanding of your chosen subject because of the higher level of study compared to an undergraduate degree. So if you enjoy essays, discussions, research projects, and diving really deep into ideas, an MA might be a good fit for you. On the other hand, a Master of Science or an MSc is awarded in subjects like sciences, technology, engineering, mathematics, and so on. So just obviously very technical and scientific subjects. So just like a BSc, an MSc is quite heavier on the stuff that it already does at undergraduate level. But of course, it's just a bit more technical. So you dive deeper into the data analysis, experiment statistics, and research methodology. You just dive deeper and deeper into what you already know. So if you like practicality, you like testing theories, you like doing research, then an MSc would be a good fit for you. Something important to note, though, about the master's degree, which is different to the BAs, is that one subject can be offered as both MA and an MSc. And this is quite common, especially with counseling. I'm not sure what other subjects do it, but I know with counseling, when I was looking for my master's counseling degree, I found both MScs and MAs. So the differences would be in the things that I've described. So my master's that I did was an MA, Master of Arts in Integrative Counseling and Psychotherapy. So you could also do an MSc in counseling and psychotherapy if you wanted to. So keep an eye out for that when you are looking for your master's degree, because counseling does come both as an MA and an MSc. The same is true for psychology. Psychology can be an MA or an MSc. So like I said, just keep that in mind when you're looking. So an MA can lead you to careers in the following areas: education, writing, therapy, management, or cultural sectors. On the other hand, an MSc can open doors for you in careers such as scientific research, healthcare roles, data science, environmental consultancy, or engineering, and so many more. So let's go over some pros and cons for the MA and the MSc. So one of the pros for an MA is that it really allows you to explore broader topics, and you can really think critically about theories, cultures, and ideas. And you usually get to write longer essays to really flex like your creative and analytical thinking, which I personally didn't really enjoy writing long essays. So if you enjoy writing long essays, of course, it's great. But at master's levels, you're gonna have to do that anyway. So yeah. So a con, of course, similar to what I said about the BA, is that in some cases, depending on who you want to work for or where you want to work, it might not be seen as technical enough for certain industries, especially if you're trying to branch out to somewhere that's maybe a bit more number driven or a bit more data and research driven. Careers like tech, finance, or engineering. But for an MSc, let's talk about a pro. A pro for an MSc is that it's usually very focused, technical, and research driven, which really helps you in an industry which is very competitive, that being tech, healthcare, science. Like those fields tend to be very competitive. So having an MSc would be really, really helpful. So once again, a con for this is that, of course, it's very statistics and number driven. So if you're somebody who likes to be a bit more open-minded and less rigid, this might not be a good fit for you, as you might not be allowed to explore like creative ideas and stuff like that. Just like the undergraduates that I talked about, choosing which one you want is obviously dependent on the kind of career you want to go into, but also depends on the kind of person you are. So if the career you want to go into offers both an MA and an MSc, you have the option. Of course, if they don't offer both, you have to go for the one, but at least now you know what to expect and you can be a bit more mentally prepared for that now that you know the difference. So of course, like I mentioned already, I did a BA and I did an MA. I'm not a numbers girl. I don't do numbers. I don't do girl maths. Like, it's just not my thing. So BAs and an MA has been good for me. And even the MA was a bit too, it was a lot of theory, but it was still a bit too much for me. So yeah, just know yourself and have a plan for where you'd like to end up so that it's a bit easier for you. So you have the advantage of choosing where to begin. So just to wrap up, please note that doing an MA or an MSc, both Master of Arts, Master of Science, and Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Science are all equally respected and they're all equally valuable in their own ways. One isn't better than the other or one isn't superior to another. All it depends on is what you're passionate about, what career you want to go into, and what interests you as an individual. So let that be the guiding force behind why you choose what you choose. So I hope that clarifies everything for you. And if you have any more questions, be sure to leave a comment. And if you're considering doing a counseling degree be sure to watch the video I did talking about what to expect on a counseling degree. And until then, I'll see you guys in the next video. Good night or good day wherever you're watching from. Bye.